The Voynich Manuscript, the book no one can read in the quiet, climate-controlled depths of Yale University's Voynich Library. There is a small, unassuming volume bound in tired brownish vellum. It has no title on its spine, no author's name on the cover, and to a casual passerby, it looks like a discarded diary from a medieval monk. But to the world's most elite cryptographers, linguists, and historians, it is the Mount Everest of unsolved mysteries. This is the Voynich Manuscript. For over a century, it has been the graveyard of academic reputations, driving brilliant men to the brink of madness and leaving the most powerful computers on the planet humming in silence. It is a book written in an alphabet that exists nowhere else in the historical record, filled with images that seem to be a hallucination of a world that never was. For the next 20 minutes, we are going to peel back the layers of this 600-year-old cold case to see why, in an age of total information, this one book remains completely silent. Our story doesn't begin in the Middle Ages, but in 1912 at a Jesuit college in the Villa Mondragone, near Rome. Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book collector with a knack for finding the impossible, was rummaging through a chest of old manuscripts when he found a bizarre illustrated volume that felt different from anything he had ever touched. Tucked inside its pages was a loose letter, dated 1665, written by Ioannis Marcus Marci, a royal physician, to the Holy Roman Emperor. The letter was addressed to Athanasius Kircher, the most famous scholar of the time, pleading for help. Marci wrote that the book had once belonged to Emperor Rudolf II, a monarch obsessed with the occult, who had allegedly paid 600 gold ducats for it, a fortune equivalent of nearly $100,000 today. Even back in the 16000 South, the greatest geniuses of the Renaissance were already baffled by it. Kircher couldn't read it, Marci couldn't read it, and for the next 250 years the book vanished into private libraries until Voynich pulled it back into the light. When you open the manuscript, you aren't greeted by words, but by a botanical section that feels like a fever dream. There are 113 large, colorful drawings of plants that, at first glance, look normal. But the moment a botanist looks closer, the reality falls apart. You might see the jagged leaves of a thistle attached to the bulbous root of a ginger plant, topped with the flowers of a lily. Out of the hundreds of species depicted, not a single one has been definitively identified as a real-world plant. Some theorists suggest these are extinct New World species, while others believe they are encoded plants where the shape of the leaf tells you which part to use for medicine. Moving past the plants, we reach the most famous and disturbing part of the book, the biological section. Some argue this is a manual for therapeutic bathing, while others think it's a coded manual for alchemy. But the expressions on the faces of these women are eerily calm, as if they are part of a biological machine we simply don't have the context to understand. But all of this, the plants, the nymphs, the stars, is secondary to the text itself. The script consists of about 20 to 30 distinct characters, written from left to right without any punctuation. It is fluid and confident, as if the author were writing a grocery list in a language they had spoken since birth. In the 1940s, William Friedman, the man who helped win World War II by cracking the Japanese Purple Code, applied frequency analysis to the book. He found that it follows the rules of a natural language, obeying mathematical patterns like Zipf's law, which is found in every human tongue from English to Mandarin. It has prefix and suffix patterns, meaning it doesn't look like a random jumble of letters. It looks like someone speaking from the heart. However, every time a researcher claims they have solved it, whether they argue it is a lost dialect of Proto-Romance or an encoded form of Hebrew, the theory falls apart the moment you try to translate a full sentence. This leads us to the most frustrating theory. Is it all a brilliant, expensive lie? In the early 15th century, there was a massive market for forbidden books, and a con man could make a lifetime of earnings by selling a lost book of secrets to a wealthy, gullible king. By creating a book that was impossible to read, the seller ensured they would never be caught in a lie. Yet, carbon dating performed in 2009 proves the vellum is real, dating back to between 1404 and 1438. Why would a 15th century con man invent a mathematical pattern that would not even be discovered by scientists for another 500 years? Even modern artificial intelligence has struggled, concluding with 80% certainty that the base language is Hebrew, yet producing only word salad when attempting a translation. Adding to the complexity is the astronomical and cosmological section, where the author moves from the earth and the body to the heavens. Here we find circular diagrams featuring suns, moons, and stars, often accompanied by the signs of the zodiac. However, even these are off, and the labels accompanying the stars remain as impenetrable as the rest of the text. Some researchers have suggested that these circular drawings represent microscopic views of cells or even distant galaxies seen through a proto-telescope, but these theories border on science fiction. What we do know is that the author's intent was systematic. They weren't just doodling, they were documenting a specific worldview that placed humanity and nature within a larger celestial clockwork. The physical makeup of the book itself offers another layer of intrigue. Forensic analysis of the pigments shows they are consistent with 15th century European origins, using materials like ground minerals and plant dyes that were common in a high-end workshop. This suggests the book wasn't the work of a lone madman in a cave, but likely a professional production involving a scribe and an illustrator. If a team of people was involved, it implies a shared understanding of the content, a secret society, perhaps, or a specific guild of early scientists who needed to hide their findings from the prying eyes of the Inquisition. The amount of effort required to produce over 200 pages of high-quality vellum and intricate art speaks to a project of immense importance to its creator. In recent years, the lost language theory has gained traction, suggesting the book is written in a phonetic script of a language that died out before it could be formalized. This would explain why frequency analysis shows it has the structure of a language but lacks a key in the existing historical record. Think of it as a photographic negative of a conversation. You can see the shapes where the words should be, but the meaning has been washed away by time. If the author was using a shorthand or a constructed language much like a 15th century Esperanto, the manuscript might be the only surviving evidence of a failed cultural or intellectual experiment. It would be a book written in a language of one for an audience of none. The psychological toll on those who study the book is well documented. Voynich himself became obsessed with its origin, convinced it was the work of the 13th century polymath Roger Bacon. Later, researchers have suffered from Voynichitis, a condition where the mind begins to see patterns where none exist, leading to elaborate, 500-page solutions that are eventually debunked by the next generation of scholars. The manuscript acts like a Rorschach test for the intellect. A medievalist sees a herbarium, a linguist sees a lost tongue, and a mathematician sees a complex cipher. It reflects our own biases back at us, proving that humans are fundamentally uncomfortable with the void of information and will fill it with any story that makes sense. As we sit here in the 21st century, the Voynich Manuscript remains history's ultimate black box. It is a reminder that the human past is not a tidy, open book. There are gaps in our history languages that have been erased, and geniuses who lived and died without, leaving anything behind but a single indecipherable echo. Is it a medical textbook from a lost school of thought, or the diary of a woman hiding her ideas from a world that would call her a witch? We may never know, and perhaps that is why we are so obsessed with it. In a world where we can map the human genome and photograph black holes, the Voynich Manuscript is a humble stack of animal skin that tells us there are some things we are not yet ready to know. Until the day the code is broken, it remains a beautiful, silent witness to the mysteries of the human mind.